And our third panel will include James Stoker, the president of Firearms Owners Against Crime, Val Finnell, of the Pennsylvania Director of the Gun Owners of America, and Craig Storrs, the Executive Director of Pennsylvania Gun Rights. So, gentlemen, you can stay standing. I'll save you that. And raise your right hand to be sworn in. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, please say, I do.
I do.
Thank you. So let's begin with the opening statements, and these will be your 3-minute summaries. You don't need to read your testimony. We'll begin with Mr. Stoker, followed by Mr. Finnell, and then Mr. Storrs. Mr. Stoker, you're
Madam Chair Kiefer, Madam Chair Kim, and honorable members of the Local Government Committee. I'm Jim Stoker, President of Firearms Owners Against Crime Institute. I deeply appreciate the opportunity to testify here today regarding the critically important issue of preemption and its impact on the individual citizen's right to keep and bear arms. Preemption promotes consistency of law and is critical to the law-abiding citizen. I often ask why it is that the only constitutional right that really changes at a state line is our Second Amendment. Without a strong preemption statute, a citizen has to worry about it changing at the border of every city, county, or municipality, not just at state lines. Our General Assembly in 1974 understood that and passed Section 6120 into law to protect the citizens from a patchwork of laws and ordinances that would inevitably make the most law-abiding citizens violators out of confusion or even a simple misunderstanding of where one district ends and another begins. A law that has comparable statutes in all but a handful of states in this nation. After nearly 30 years in law enforcement, my experiences have taught me that it's common sense gun rights that reduce crime and save lives, and preemption helps preserve those rights. FOAC is engaged in numerous legal actions across this Commonwealth, including recent successes against the City of Pittsburgh's ban on modern sporting rifles, the City of Harrisburg's 5 illegal ordinances that we began a lawsuit in 2015 and were only able to defeat just last year. Both were massive wastes of taxpayer money paying solicitors to fight for ordinances the higher courts have already declared violate preemption in other areas. We've used the preemption law to defeat municipalities such as Lower Merion Township, who attempted to use zoning law to prohibit a properly licensed federal firearms license holder from relocating his own business within the community without paying exorbitant fees and begging for their permission via conditional use efforts. This was our second successful litigation against Lower Merion Township for violating the preemption law, and they clearly don't mind wasting their taxpayers' dollars losing in court trying to violate the statute. And there are numerous other small governments writing ordinances at will, either ignoring the law or ignorant to the statute that makes their actions criminal. We've literally dozens of court victories curbing the efforts of small government to violate the law passing these ordinances and infringing upon the rights of the citizen. My organization maintains a list of violators right now that exceeds over 132 municipalities we've been able to confirm have ordinances in violation of this statute. We often approach the district attorneys in various counties where municipal or city governments pass ordinances that violate the statute. We call and usually speak directly to the district attorneys requesting their assistance in enforcing the law. Unfortunately, most district attorneys will write a letter warning the governing body, but are unwilling to enforce the laws written against political organizations within their own counties. They simply choose not to enforce the law that was written to protect us from that very abuse of political power. It is for these reasons we helped author the first efforts to strengthen preemption, and the wording still being used in proposed bills today, and continue to push for support for the citizen against their own local governments. It is our firm belief at the FOAC Institute that to truly protect the citizens of this great Commonwealth against inconsistencies of law, our preemption statutes need to be given the teeth that it requires to prevent further violations. FOAC Institute thanks you all for your time and consideration of this critically important matter, and we strongly urge all of you to report Senate Bill 822 favorably and move it forward for a full Senate vote for the good of Pennsylvania. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Jim, I have a question for you regarding, you mentioned that there are more than 130 municipalities that do have ordinances, and you believe that they violate the preemption law. How do you actually verify those violations, and what are the most common violations?
The 132 we're aware of, we've been able to pull their ordinances off their websites or from their books and actually verify that they have possession, discharge, transport ordinances already in place, prohibitions in parks. And that's just municipalities. We're able to pull that not just from their ordinances, but from the ATF records as well.
Thank you. I could ask a lot more questions. I want to give my colleagues an opportunity. Chair Kim?
Thank you, Chairwoman. So I just wanted to kind of experiment and do an exercise with you. And and see if we can come up with an idea. I don't like the way, we're not here to fight or argue. You've presented your case very well. I get it. Come into the shoes of, again, City of Harrisburg. That's what I represent. And we have a small group of young boys who are wreaking havoc in our communities. They're a nuisance, trying to get them, trying to control that. I learned that the way that they get their guns is going to cars. They don't break into the cars. If the cars are unlocked, they actually target certain cars, and then they go into the console and take out the guns, and they take those guns, and then they wreak havoc in my city. As responsible gun owners in your position, could you, if we had a conversation, how could we rectify this together without putting, ordinances on the books, and how can we work together? And we don't need an answer right now, but I just want to start that dialogue. I'm having a problem with my city. They're taking guns from lawful gun owners in open, unlocked cars. How do we work together? How do we work together? I want to save lives. I want to get these kids away. They shouldn't be doing that, but how do we work together?
We could add a good bit to that. Actually, there's a three-prong
Could you pull forward to the microphone?
There's a three-prong approach that we take in this organization. First and foremost is education for law-abiding gun owners. Myself, my Vice President Clint Macro, we're headed to Erie after we leave here to teach a class at 6 p.m. tonight about concealed carry law and encourage responsible carry. So education's key. Second, you definitely want to enforce the laws that we currently have. I mean, the theft of a firearm is already an enhanced penalty. We need to make sure that the district attorneys are prosecuting it correctly. They're not trading away severe, what we would consider crimes with firearms, because it's an easier day in court for the prosecutors. And third is we need to piggyback on what Val said here a little bit. We have government agencies that routinely violate 6109M3 and require law-abiding gun owners to lock their firearms up in their car before they go into a PennDOT service center or even right down the road here at the State Museum. And all these things contribute to those. If we can work on all three of those factors, then we should be able to reduce that factor within any community, not just yours.
I appreciate that. I really do. Having a dialogue versus talking at each other. But when you do your education, can you just tell these guys to lock your doors? Please lock your car doors. I think that's also a very simple answer, too. Please lock your doors. Thank you.
We do.
I will say, as somebody who has had some of the trainings, thank you, Mr. Stoker, concealed carry, that's one thing that's reiterated over and over and over again is, safety and lawfully carrying and being responsible. That's probably half of the education that we do. Thank you. Senator Malone?
Thank you. I do have one question, but first I did want to point two things. First, we did hear from the Attorney General's office that the criminality on the books is not clarified yet, whether the local DA has an actual role. So it makes sense that they would just send a letter, because right now they're still not fully validated on whether or not they should go. Secondly, there is federal law regarding printing guns. You do have to make sure that they are serialized and registered. But, that's still, if you can afford to get the printer and build everything and follow the laws, good on you. But my question on the mention of discharge, and there are plenty of federal regulations as to when, discharge is acceptable or not, or what have you. But some of the court cases against municipalities for setting laws on discharge seem a bit excessive. Is that explicitly to try to make, and just to be clear, I grew up in an open carry state. So, I am a concealed carry because that's how you have to do it in Pennsylvania. So I understand the arguments and stuff made, but the fight against the regulations on discharge, what's the root of that? Because it seems zealous to the point of destroying a safety of the community. So I just really want to understand, like I said, concealed carry seems back-asswards to me already. You should have open carry because that way a person goes, oh, that's not a soft target, rather than after someone opens fire, then maybe you can take them out.
Well, thank you, Senator.
Anyway,
We do have open carry here in Pennsylvania. One thing we do teach, one of the things we instruct pretty heavily is that concealed carry is actually your safest bet for obvious reasons of your aggressor is unaware that you're armed. And we already know the criminal chooses when, where, and how a crime occurs. So really it comes down to the law-abiding citizen's ability, opportunity, and decision whether they are going to react to that crime or not. So that's where concealed carry becomes the stronger option. As far as the discharge ordinance, we know for a fact that we've beaten discharge ordinances. Actually, one of the Harrisburg ordinances we defeated was a discharge ordinance, in which case the Supreme Court in Pennsylvania said that it was a field preemption matter. So we know we've beaten this case, and the issue with it is really going to be, how do you know as a law-abiding citizen that it is okay to discharge your firearm in defense of yourself, your family, your loved ones, if there's an ordinance in that town that states you may not discharge? Not every town, not every city, not every jurisdiction was wise enough to say unless it was a justified shooting, but then you also open the door of discretion on what is justified and what is not. It's just a can of worms that we'd rather not see opened, and because preemption exists, it is to this body, the Senator, the General Assembly, to make that decision, not a local municipal. The last thing I want is the city of Harrisburg determining for me where I can and cannot defend myself with a firearm.
okay, so that is the line item of the exemption of self-protection.
It's absolutely a self-defense issue. Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
One of the things, Jim, you said something that I think is very important. The criminals choose the time, location, and the manner in which they're going to create a violation. I was crime prevention NCO with the military on a couple installations. I've also had to respond to things, and absolutely, it's the person with criminal intent is the one that's making the decision. And they are also choosing to hit the soft targets. I mean, that's the whole point. Whenever you're trying to, whenever somebody is about to take a criminal act, they're looking for the easiest way so that they can get away. And when I have a strong suspicion that what was brought up about getting weapons out of cars, they're probably checking cars that are near schools, near post offices, stuff like that, because people who are law-abiding want to end up not violating the law, so they'll leave their weapon in the vehicle. Mm-hmm. I face a similar situation. My son's stationed out in Long Island, so I have to drive from western Pennsylvania through New Jersey and New York. I specifically had to get when New York passed their gun law regarding magazine capacity, I had to find a weapon that had only 6 rounds. But I still have to take it apart when I get over to Stroudsburg. And now it's gun parts. And that, for us to do that from one municipality to another, there are 2,700 municipalities here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. That is just a ridiculous burden on people. And I think that goes to the necessity of Senate Bill 822, because that combined with the willingness of governments that are using taxpayers' money against them in these lawsuits and these actions, that goes to the reason that the 822 is a necessity. If you guys want to comment on that, you can.
I think it would also help put in perspective the cost of these events. Our typical lawsuit starts at maybe $15,000. To defeat the city of Pittsburgh's sporting weapons ban cost us over $100,000. We charge $30 a member. The fundraising that goes into these things to fight what is essentially my own tax money is absolutely outrageous.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? Senator Culver.
So I believe 44 other states have firearm preemption laws. I guess, in your opinion, how does Pennsylvania compare? And are there things they're doing that we haven't passed yet and perhaps we could look at their best practices?
We use preemption expressly in FOAC to deal with these municipalities and city governments that overstep. We use it nonstop, but it is an expensive process. I wish the statute had more teeth. I wish there were some consequence for the municipality that oversteps. So this is not something, we don't come out of the blue and file a lawsuit. I typically send a 6-page letter to a municipality. We believe in educate first, litigate second. So we try to make them aware that they're in violation first. And I can't tell you how many solicitors will review the information, the case law we send them, and they either ignore it, they tell us we don't know what we're talking about, or they say, well, then sue us. And it's not their money. And to be honest with you, it kind of makes me wonder sometimes, because the solicitors get paid as well to fight these cases.
Right. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today and for your time and your testimony. Your perspective is unique, as each one of you are in the front lines of this legal battle. So I appreciate you sharing your insight and expertise. So with that, this meeting is adjourned.